Oh yes, the ZnZerna Music Hour with P.T. Burnham. Welcome back to the ZnZerna Music Hour. My name is P.T. Burnham, and tonight we are going to be talking about bells, we're talking about tuning, and we're going to be talking about art projects, and all of it hopefully will be pretty exciting. I've got a couple of things going. Right now I've just got Mononoke happening. Mononoke is a great synth by Bram Bros. Lets you get all sorts of pads and strings going. And right now tonight we're just using the microphone from the MacBook to get all the sounds. Just moving a few things around. Alright. What up, footbags? How's it going, man? It's an exciting week. We've got big plans coming up, and I'm just kind of a little bit overwhelmed in terms of what's going to be happening in the next couple of months. We've got a couple of albums that I'm working on, and most importantly to me right now, the Gallery 5 art show, which I've decided is going to be, I think at this point I'm going to need 8 different bells, all of which will probably be made out of tubes. And so this is what I'm calling this semi-autonomous deconstructed robotic glockenspiel. Robotic deconstructed glockenspiel. And I have not even really started building. I've been prototyping and thinking a lot about bells and drones. And I've been learning a lot. So I've been learning a lot about the tarot. It's going to be a really cool project. I'm doing 8 individual bells that will have something to do with these bells here that I'm about to show you. It's really just one new bell that I have, and it's not. This is not one of the bells that will be used in the show, but I'll talk about it later in this show. This is a railroad spike suspended inside an old tape dispenser ring with a very large solenoid attached to the ring and pointed at the railroad spike. So when I tap, that's really ridiculous. It shakes the whole table. And obviously it's very jangly. It's more just like a test of sound, and also an interesting project really just for tonight's ZnZerna, because I wanted to have, oh yes, lots of action on that berry. It's got those littler ones that I was using just for reference. Where's my box? Trying to find my box of parts. We got Ariel Bryant in the building. We're hanging out. We're actually working on the wall goo project right now, which is another cool, there's some cool news about that as well. But first I'm trying to find these other little solenoids. I'm not sure where I put my box. Maybe around the corner here. Nope. Okay. Anyways, the solenoids in question, the old ones, are about this big and have a force of about like 0.6 newtons. This bad boy, on the other hand, is about 4 times as large and has a force of 6 to 7 newtons. So it's much bigger striking, and we can even get a big sound from something as dense. Wizard problems, Barry, wizard problems, you know? These are very unique problems to have. But I'm really pleased with the amount of sound I'm getting from it. It needs kind of constant adjustment, and that's one of the stated missions of the new art project, which is to get a more stable and loud sound from more stable construction. Basically, this here is kind of the example of how I'm not going to do it. Oh shoot, we seem to have lost, there we go. How I'm not gonna do it with all this janky, clanky stuff. It's gonna be something like this, well, not really like this, but with larger copper tubes, but be as beautiful as my self-ringing bell here. But you can hear, that's the apple bell. And there's that Tibetan bell. I still have to fix that so that it's got a bigger sound. I think I know how, though. I've got to get the striker close to the end, the bottom of the bell itself. So I could use mic shock mounts. However, yeah, actually I could use mic shock mounts. That would be a one option to go with mounting it. However, I probably want to, it wouldn't end up using the elastic necessarily, because what I'm eventually going to be using is wire or maybe hard twine to eventually suspend these from blocks of wood and have the striker mounted to that. So what if you can imagine the wood is underneath like a platform with bracket mounts that come up between, and holes drilled in very specific points in the piping to hold it steady, and then a hole in the wood where the striker could come through. And I think what I'm going to do is put the strikers on adjustable sort of sliders, so that I can do minute adjustments and lock them into place for their striking capability to get really exact and really stable striking distances. So this is going to form the body of some of the bells. I've actually got this really cool striker that I've been using to hand strike and test things out. So we're going to be able to get, this is like the lowest tone that I'll probably have. And it doesn't sound that great with what's playing right now. Speaking of which, whoa, all right. Yes, definite wizard business. And what's crazier wizard business is testing and tuning the various bells that I have. Now all my stuff is labeled. All the resonant objects that I have are labeled with the frequency that they make. And that's for ease of use. I've actually got them listed. That Tibetan bell is a sort of E flat, which is, it wouldn't really sound that great with this anyways, because this drone is in E. You know, the copper tubing is at G flat 7, but it's 25, not 25 cents, sort of 25 numbers sharp. There's not really a value to that yet, because how many cents, how many hertz change in 1 cent varies in a sort of parabola shape, or it's exponential. So it takes some math that I haven't done yet, but it's quite a bit sharp. I've got some other rods and stuff. The Apple is at F7, but it's really sharp. The Apple actually sounds pretty dissonant when you play it with stuff that's running at F, but it can still sound really good. It's basically, these things all have a character in their tone that could potentially be used musically. I want the bells in the project to be specifically set up, shaved down to be exact tunings, resonating with each other, and then set up around the room the same way that the sort of signs and symbols and rhythmic pieces were set up around the room for the original Dust Cat Dream drum machine. So we're not only we're going in with a little more exact construction, but we're thinking a lot about scales and tuning. This, for instance, is a drone in E. A sliding up to C. When I have the bells all constructed, actually before I have the bells all constructed, I'm going to be composing a special piece of music designed to be played on this deconstructed glockenspiel. I think it's going to be about roughly 18 minutes long, with bells, these drones, a little bit of pattern or texturing from something like Borderlands Granular. I'll show you this right now. It's a pretty fantastic little granular synthesizer. So you have these waveforms which you can move around and position. This is like some Minority Report stuff. And then you can create a cloud of grains, which are just bits of the sound or bits of sound triggers. You can see them visually, which I like a lot. You see that cloud of triggers happening. And as you move the cloud over the sounds, they are triggered in the locations that you can see that on the waveform. The cool thing is you can combine sounds inside grain clouds, or you can make new grain clouds. So something like that granular synth to make some texture for the intro, and we would be building, doing some melodies with the bells, melodies that would obviously revolve around the audience, and then those melodies would sort of be hinting at a main melodic theme, which would basically halfway through the piece be replicated on trumpet, or with a synth that sounds like a trumpet. I'm not sure yet. I'm going to be composing it and pitching the idea to some really excellent trumpet playing friends of mine, see if they're down to play it live on stage. Either way, I'm prepared to stand on stage and bring that kind of crescendo feeling with these hinted at semi-random, in the beginning especially, semi-random bells. Let's see here. I have a little bit already constructed, which I'll show you in a moment. Right now we're droning in E, and I'd like to tell you something interesting that I learned in my educational travels about railroad spikes. So I'm doing these tests on the tunings of my objects, and they're all falling at some degree of sharp or flat. Another interesting thing that I'll talk about in a minute is that a box that a friend made me, both the top and the bottom of the base of the box, both resonate at A flat, which is the Empress card, or the High Priestess card, which is very interesting. Been connecting a lot of the musical theory stuff that I've been doing with the tarot, which, if you're more interested in that kind of thing, I might end up doing a special session on how the tarot connects to music theory. Basically, each card of the major arcana has an associated pitch and key, and by using those keys strategically in terms of what the cards represent, you can utilize those in your compositional practices. So, but that's like a whole crazy bag of worms. All you really need to know is that the tuning that I decided on are the keys of A flat minor and D flat minor. Both of those are natural minors for those of you who know your music theory. I am just learning my music theory, but I'm using this project as an opportunity to really dig in and go deep on the music theory. So, droning in E, and it's interesting. The railroad spike is only 1 hertz away from perfect E, from a perfect E7, which is really odd. The next closest thing is the box that my friend made me, which is about 7 hertz away, 7 hertz under the tone that it's resonating at, which is A flat. So, you know, you've got things that are 58 hertz away, wild variations in tone, and yet this railroad spike is exactly at E. So, you hear how that weird wiggling pattern is basically replicated each time? It goes like ding, 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 ding. Natural delay. Footbags, I couldn't have said it any better. I could not have said it any better myself. Natural delay. So, that's the kind of thing we got going on. So, very interesting that they resonate at E, and I'm wondering, actually, if there's a reason for that, if maybe a perfect resonation on something like a railroad spike, which is always being vibrated, might aid in its durability in a situation where it's always being vibrated. That's just a shot in the dark, but it's interesting to me that that is at a perfect pitch, whereas the Tibetan bell that I bought off of, well, that was bought for me, but you know, it's a cast brass bell, and you would think they would bother to make the cast perfect pitch, but it's 6 hertz off. So, E, for your reference, is 3 cards in the tarot have the pitch of E as their musical tone, and that those are both the Fool and the Magician, and the Strength card. I've been finding that drink drinks, y'all. I've been finding that the tarot is teaching me things about music theory, and music theory is teaching me things about the tarot as I move through that. Now it's changed. It's changed. The pattern of that ding 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 ding. So, we will have these 8 bells. Again, hoping to get a little more regularity through more rigid construction and quality construction, basically. This bell, I actually just slapped together maybe an hour before the show. I'm sure that hoop method of suspending something is a time-tested thing, but it's new to me. You know, I think for fun, I want to pull the tape recorder into things for a little bit of variation. I also want to shift the kick on this sequence here. That's nice, but I don't want it decaying so harsh. Don't like that kick at all. That'll work. Nah, I can't see that. All right, so I'm gonna add this tape recorder in. don't lie. Alright. Okay, I've got an interesting, something I just thought about while I was gathering up these tapes for the tape recorder. And that's this. Tapes are fun because they're physical media and they're also still really cheap. Like, records are awesome. And yeah, you can get records for like $1, but cassettes are basically like given away for 50 cents. Like, and a lot of times also, another interesting thing, if you're not looking to just like collect the records of the things that you like, but you're looking to like explore sonic areas, sonic landscapes, a lot of times tapes have been recorded by like people at home or like weird organizations, like my own tape organization. But like here we have a satsang with Sri Swami Sachindananda, and he actually kind of like fell from grace as a Swami for, you know, sort of getting a little too handsy with some of his students. So I'm actually not gonna like listen to that one, but I actually got a lot of tapes from like sort of not maniacs, but like I got a Christian Science tape. Actually, let's plug that in. Let's plug the Christian Science tape.
This is cassette number 16, side 1 of the Christian Science textbook, Science and Health with Key to the Scriptures by Mary Baker Eddy. This cassette contains
I can hear that pretty good. How are y'all feeling about it?
The Apocalypse.
This is about the apocalypse.
This recording of Science and Health is published by the First Church of Christ Scientists in Boston, Massachusetts.
Boston.
And copyrighted
Shout outs
by
to
the
Boston.
Christian Science Board of Directors. Chapter 16. The Apocalypse.
Chapter 16. The Apocalypse. Thanks, Barry.
Chapter 16. The Apocalypse. This chapter begins with two passages from the Bible. From Revelation. Blessed is he that readeth, and they that hear the words of this prophecy, and keep those things which are written therein, for the time is at hand. And from Psalms, great is the Lord, and greatly to be praised in the city of our God, in the mountain of his holiness. St. John writes in the 10th chapter of his book of Revelation, "And I saw another mighty angel come down from heaven, clothed with a cloud, and a rainbow was upon his head, and his face was as it were the sun, and his feet as pillars of fire. And he had in his hand a little book open, and he set his right foot upon the sea, and his left foot on the earth.
Oh, it sounds like temperance.
This angel or message which comes from God, clothed with a cloud, prefigures divine science.
Sounds like
The mortal science seems at first a pure, abstract
Barry, I like
noun.
that. You know, I'm not sure, but you would assume that there was not another chapter after Apocalypse.
It is truth's prism and praise. When you look it fairly in the face, you can feel by its means. And it has for you a light above the sun, for God is the light thereof. Its feet are pillars of fire, foundations of truth and love. It brings the baptism of the Holy Ghost, whose flames of truth were prophetically described by John the Baptist as consuming error. This angel had in his hand a little book, open for all to read and understand. Did this same book contain the revelation
You can... The lamp is shaking, as well as the computer whenever this solenoid runs off. I'm glad to have found these more powerful solenoids. Okay, so... Let's see. Basically, from here until November 16th, which if you're in Richmond, November 16th is going to be the culmination of this project. I'm going to be using the ZnZerna Music Hour as a sort of weekly check-in with the project, see how it's doing. What up, Dewey Drop? Big love right back. Big love right back to Raleigh. I hope you're enjoying these wild bells and drones. Do not be surprised nor discontented.
Eat the bitter herbs. For the Israelites of old at the Paschal meal thus prefigured this perilous passage out of bondage into the El Dorado of faith and hope. Flock cut and eat the bitter herbs. For the Israelites of old at the Paschal meal thus prefigured this perilous passage out of bondage into the El Dorado of faith and hope. The 12th chapter of the Apocalypse, or Revelation of St. John, has a special suggestiveness in connection with the 19th century. In the opening of the 6th seal, typical of 6,000 years since Adam, the distinctive feature has reference to the present age.
I want to put this big bell through its paces a little bit, see what happens.
And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars.
Oh, well, that's what happens.
Heaven represents harmony, and divine science interprets the principle of heavenly harmony.
Oh,
The great miracle to human sense is divine love, and the grand necessity of existence is to gain the true idea of what constitutes the kingdom of heaven in man. This goal is never reached while we hate our neighbor or entertain a false estimate of anyone whom God has appointed to voice his word. Again, without a correct sense of its highest visible idea, we can never understand the divine principle. The botanist must know the genus and species of a plant in order to classify it correctly. As it is with things, so is it with persons. The botanist must know the genus and species of a plant in order to classify it correctly. As it is with things, so is it with persons. Abuse of the motives and religion of St. Paul hid from view the apostle's character, which made him equal to his great mission. Persecution of all who have spoken something new and better of God has not only obscured the light of the ages, but has been fatal to the persecutors. Why? Because it has hid from them the true idea which has been presented.
okay. Let's see what else we got. It's fun, like, tapes are made by people that have less money, or classically they were, and so you get all sorts of weird stuff. And in fact, we've got a 1888 number here on this Dead Doctors Don't Lie, which I already know because I've listened to this, that it's kind of rather militant diatribe for advocating for like natural remedies and things of that nature, and against the medical institution, which I'm not gonna say that the medical institutions are all, they're just benevolent institutions, obviously. But it is wild to hear somebody going off and being like, dead doctors? What?
Ago when I started out on this crusade and started lecturing to people all across America, and I'm in one time zone and the next and all over, I knew I was going to get crazy out there doing this. Last year I was on the road 300 days out of the year, 300 out of 365 days. And so I decided I needed to have a hobby that I could take with me. Every time I get a little wacko, I could go in my room and do this hobby and I'd be okay. It'd be kind of like having a little piece of home with me wherever I went. I wanted to have a hobby that would help other people. I didn't want to collect baseball cards because I like football. I didn't want to do just crossword puzzles because a good mental exercise but wouldn't help anybody else. And I couldn't take my compost pile. I like to garden, and the hotels don't like that, So I decided I was going to collect obituaries of doctors and lawyers.
The obituaries of doctors and lawyers.
Now, as crazy as that sounds, remember I told you the doctors live to an average age of 58, and we live to 75.5. And here's a group of people, professionals, who pontificate to you and tell you, well, this is what you need to do. You need to give up salt and no caffeine, and you need to not eat butter and eat margarine and do all these crazy things. And they die at age 58 on the average. And, of course, all those people who live to be 120 to 140, they put a chunk of rock salt in their tea every day, and they drink 40 cups of tea a day, 40 chunks of rock salt, and they cook with butter instead of olive oil, and they live to be 120. So who are you going to believe, the people who live to be 58 or the people who live to be 120? It's your choice. Anyway, got a few of them here, some of my favorites. This is Dr. Stuart Cartwright, age 38. He dropped dead in his home. He was a family practitioner of a ruptured aneurysm. That's a ballooning of an artery that's a weakened artery because of the fragmenting or the brittle condition of the elastic fibers in arteries. Just like when you hit a chuck hole with your car tire and you break the cords in there and you get a balloon. He dropped dead like he was poleaxed, okay, right in his home from a ruptured aortic aneurysm. And we learned in 57, aneurysms are caused by a copper deficiency. We had a pilot project, 250,000 turkeys. We made complete food pellets where you put all the 90 nutrients in there. And in the first 13 weeks,
hell yeah,
turkeys died.
Footbags, that's exactly the stuff that I'm talking about. Wild heads going off, sometimes home recordings.
They found out that they all had died from a ruptured aortic aneurysm. So they doubled the amount of copper in there, and the next year they tried to raise 500,000 turkeys, and they didn't lose a single turkey from a ruptured aortic aneurysm. And they ran that experiment in mice and rats and rabbits and dogs and cats and calves and sheep and pigs and whatnot, and guess what? They found out there's a whole series of diseases that are caused by a copper deficiency. Gray hair is the first time. You start getting gray hair regardless of your age, you got a copper deficiency. You get skin wrinkles because the elastic fibers in your skin are going. Those little crow's feet around your eyes and facial and body skin wrinkles. You look like your little prunes drying up. Okay? Then, of course, there's the varicose veins. Varicose veins. That's caused by an elastic fiber breakdown. Then, of course, parts of your body begin to sag. Under your arms, your breasts, your bellies, your legs, all this stuff starts sagging. And you can go to a cosmetic surgeon, a plastic surgeon if you want, but it's a lot cheaper and a lot more effective and a lot safer if you just take some copper. And here's one. This fellow, he was a doctor's doctor, Dr. Martin Carter. He almost made it. He died at age 57. He got his medical degree from Harvard Medical School and his PhD in medicine from Yale. And of course, he was autopsied by the desk because he was a doctor's doctor. It said, quote, the cause of death was a ruptured aortic aneurysm, said Dr. Jules Hirsch of the Rockefeller University Hospital, unquote. What did he die from? Copper deficiency. See, he didn't have expensive urine either.
He didn't have expensive urine either. So yeah, from things like product feedback to, it's just like, and again, I am not saying that this guy's like totally full of shit. I'm just saying that even people like me, kind of wild ideas I got, can put together a tape. And I value that because I want to hear what people with less money have to say, even if it's not exactly, even if it's not the coolest shit to hear, I guess you might even say. I mean, I like listening to lots of, excellent records by, studios that are expensive, etc. But I also want to be able to just hear a country stream. Also, you can be a little reckless with tapes. Throw them around. Yo, Jay, what's up? I'm here by this relaxing country stream. And I'm glad you joined us here today on the ZnZerna Music Hour. Hey, yo, Jason, check out this enormous solenoid that I put up against this railroad spike. Also, did you know that railroad spikes, at least the ones being used or that have been used in some of the railways through Richmond, have the tuning of E? Like, we're talking about 1 hertz away from E. Very, very close to perfect 440. Or perfect tuning. Not 440, that's an A. That's not what I wanted at all. Yeah, I know it doesn't have much light. Look. It's what I could muster up. How about that? Better for you? Yeah, there we go. Actually, you see that? It's a big-ass solenoid. Let's see. It's got a lot of force. So one of the things I was talking about earlier was stability. Yeah, this video camera keeps cutting out. Jay, you should come down to Richmond or visit me when I'm in Burtonsville. Or wait until you see. Jason, I don't know if you were here last week, but I had this on the floor. It was hard kind of to get the gauge of how big it is. It's a relatively large copper pipe. And I'm going to be making bells out of these. This does not sound good right now. That sounded kind of interesting. But yes. That's right, Barry. And Barry, as a royal blue dust cat, if you want to come down for November 16th, you'll be absolutely a person of honor. All of the experimentation and materials here are made easier to acquire by my dust cats, and especially folks like Barry. So it would be a great honor for you to make it down for the show. Hopefully I'll be taking it on the road again, but I'll tell you, things are going really well in Richmond in terms of people being excited about it and maybe getting some press and some real momentum. Yeah, check it out, man. That'll be tight. Actually, Jay, it's really not that crazy. People make things like wind chimes out of copper piping all the time. There's websites devoted to it. As long as it's a tube, it's basically all good. You just have to file them down to tune them correctly. And then you have to suspend them from the correct place and hit them in the correct place. The problem with this copper pipe right now, Jay, is actually that it's just tuned to a weird tuning. It's like 25 hertz sharp of it's not that thick, pretty thin piping. Actually, thick piping isn't what you want. You want thin piping. But yeah, it's about 25 sharp. So this is pretty thin. The problem really is that it's low. People don't usually make glockenspiels out of anything lower than like the 5th register or the 5th octave. But I've got some other jaunts as well. So I've been doing a lot of research. Oh yeah. I've got everything here labeled with their resonant frequencies. This pipe resonates at 2365 hertz. So yeah. I actually went on a weird tear last night and like frequency tested all the resonant objects in my room. So now they've all got either tape on them or it's written on them what they are. But unfortunately, some of them were really off. No, okay, so Jay, this is the thing that's so interesting about the railroad spike being like 1 hertz away from E, is that all the other stuff, even the Tibetan bell, which is like sold as a resonant bell, you would think the frequency would be dead on accurate or at least close, but even that is 6 hertz off from an E flat 5. Got all the frequencies listed here. So it's interesting that the railroad spike would be the closest to a tone. A lot of the things were close, but the steak was the closest. Very interesting. So let's see. I'll be working within the scales of. Oh, Jason, you're gonna be like, what? The boy's gone mad, because I'm actually gonna be working in D flat minor, which is not a real scale, or at least it's not a classically real scale. It's one of those ones where C sharp minor is doable, but D flat minor actually has double flats in it, so nobody liked to use it back in the day because it was hard to read off of the paper, the notation paper. But A flat is the key. It's actually not that difficult. What you do is you cut it down, get it close, and then carefully sand it down until it's resonating at 440. One of the complications is that first of all, you can't unsand, so you've got to go sharp and carve downward. Oh yeah. Definitely difficult to create a piece of glass with a specific frequency. I do have here some ready-made glass that is, I think, the lowest tone that I have in my collection, but I think it would look really cool to light up and ring. And that's resonating at 872, which is A5, basically. It's 8 hertz away from A5. But that's pretty flat. Let's actually stop these bells. And I want to see if we can make this drone in A. Now, let's see how this sounds. Let's let our ears get used to that. Now, as we know, E, A, B, C, D, E. E is what? The fourth of A. Wait, let's see. Hey, Jason, if it was an A natural scale, A major, what would the fifth be? My man Jason knows something about some music theory. In the meantime, I'm gonna try plugging in a little. Let's try this stuff. E. Okay, so when you say a lowercase e, is that like E flat? Or no, that's just E. That's good. So since it's the fifth, perfect fifth is E, and that is the sound of the railroad spike, so it should sound good. I know, I was surprised too. Okay, so check this out, Jay. What determines whether the thing resonates or not really has a lot to do with where you hold it and where you strike it. You're supposed to strike things at the bottom so they have the full resonating length. And when you strike them at the bottom, you're supposed to hold them at a specific percentage down their length. If you can't get a hold of them at the very top. Obviously, bell shapes are supposed to be like dangled and held from the top, but with something long like a spike or like a pole, what you want to be doing is holding it about, I think it's 22.7% down the length of the tube. And the reason for that is that the waves inside the tube don't get interrupted less when there's a little added tension to that point as opposed to any other point on the tube. So at first the railroad spike didn't resonate. And then once I suspended the railroad spike from its 22.7% down, roughly, we got that. So right now we're in A, or rather we're in E. Oh no, we are in A. Find the node point, hold it. Hold it now, hit it. So, now that we've let that A sink in, drink drinks. See how this sounds. Now we can detune our A drone. I guess that would be like, it's flat, so let's go flat. Let that sink in. It's more flat. Also, this glass bell doesn't have the best sound. The railroad spike actually sounds better. Like a cool chime. Maybe this is just a little too big. It's also trying to resonate at a really low frequency, which that's where you really also have problems with more of the accuracy. In terms of, it won't sound good if it's just a couple of hertz off. The difference in hertz between low notes is smaller than the difference in hertz variation on high notes. So each hertz means more as you go lower. So that bell doesn't really sound that good. I don't really think I'm gonna worry much about that bell.
They haven't gotten any of our stuff. And I asked if they got the FISA X or if they got the honey in that, and any of that stuff.
Well, you sent out by surface stuff we sent in.
Yeah, but still.
They haven't even gotten the stuff we sent here yet. They didn't.
Well, what did they send her?
Oh, I sent them a letter and I sent them some money for the birthday.
All right,
Yeah, that's right.
I think we're gonna wind it down
Yeah.
with the texture that's currently going. I'm gonna maybe trigger some bells off of it.
They hadn't gotten it like the 29th. Are they, how much did it cost you now?
Oh, I don't know. We haven't got the bill yet. We'll find out when we get it.
$15.
Well, I don't think, I think it runs around $6 or $7 minutes. And that's about all they want. Yeah. sounds to me like that has stopped. It's still going? No, we're not off it. No, we're not. We still have a little more time on this. Let's see, what were we talking about? Oh, we were talking about this exchange rate and so forth. And we've come to the conclusion that maybe instead of sending presents or anything like that, we'll just put money in your checking account. Because there's no sense in sending it over there if your exchange rate is
All
so
right.
bad that
Thanks,
it
Jason.
costs you money to handle it. And, you know, the thought occurred to me, how are you going to pay your income? Oh, wait a minute. Maybe they won't even owe it. When did they leave? Oh, yeah, they'll owe income tax.
But they might have deducted it.
All right. So I hope that it's been an informative evening. I think over the course of this project, I will be talking a little more about the tarot and music theory. Jason, I would love to have you as a guest here sometime over the next 2 months to talk about music theory and maybe discuss how it relates to the tarot, because there's some very interesting things that I'd like to talk to you about regarding the characters of the tarot and the keys and how they relate to each other. And something that I think you would find fascinating, and I could certainly pick your brain about the somewhat deeper knowledge that you have about music theory in general. So I say let's get that together. This tape says for demonstration, but it's really just a collection of songs. Let's plug this one in and see what's what. But yes, November 16th, it's going down. Also in November, I've already said it, now I've got to do it. Also in November, on the 10th, I'm going to be in Woodbridge, Virginia. More details on that coming, but I'm going to be doing a show in Woodbridge, Virginia with Bitter Ink and Andrew's False Consciousness. A couple of cats that I know from Greenville, and it's going to be awesome. So, Woodbridge, Virginia on the 10th, and then the big show on the 16th in November at Gallery 5. Let's go back to that drone. Let's pencil it in. For everybody else, oh, if you want to just see a Burnham set, Barry, if you want to see a Burnham set, then you should come to DC for the 10th. Or I mean, come to Woodbridge for the 10th. That's going to be a lot of fun. Also, Bitter Ink are the guys that interviewed me for Issues magazine. Great, and just an interesting cat to talk to. Issues magazine, especially about some chaos shit. Yeah. Woodbridge on the 10th, 16th of November. Richmond, Virginia, with all the bells. In the meantime, keep listening to your surroundings. Hell yeah, Barry. I will see you there. In the meantime, I'd like to thank all my dust cats. Huge assistance to my digicats, each and every one of y'all. To my Zerna cats, Kenny Creech, Erica P, Brittany. I know that we got it going on, but we'll get it. You know, we'll get the whole thing taken care of. We had a little. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I gotta thank my Dusty Cats, Eric Akers, Austin Cat, Wayne Anderson, Quinn Cat, Anna Carmen, Becca Maxig, Jen Dudley, Sam Seeger. Thank you so much. Viz, what's up? We're going back in on the apocalypse. Chapter 16.
Both faith in evil and the facts of evil, leads to the discernment of the
you to my Lumi cat.
His microscope,
Dog fuck, what's up?
an egg at a point of so-called embryonic life. Because of his more spiritual vision, St. John saw an angel standing in the sun. The revelator beheld the spiritual idea on the Mount of Vision. Purity was the symbol of life and love.
Barry, Barry,
John saw the
given your Hassan I Saba
showed a
quote,
man Jesus.
you might want to look into
Humanity in life and its demonstration, reducing to human perception and understanding the life which is God.
Gurdjieff, or Gurdjieff,
Divine revelation,
I think is how people
material and
refer to him.
would disappear, and the spiritual idea is understood.
There's a lot of weird esoteria that relates
Woman
back
in the
to
apocalypse
tarot and music theory and chemical theory that Gurdjieff talks about.
He illustrates the coincidence of God and man as the divine principle and
But yeah.
divine idea.
Given your interest, you might like a little bit of Gurdjieff.
Symbolizes spirit by the sun.
That's it for tonight.
Spiritual
Got the
idea
bells
is
clanging.
with the radiance of spiritual truth. And matter
I hope y'all had a good time.
the
Hope
light
y'all got drinks to drink.
is really neither solar nor lunar.
Yes, that's the one.
Spiritual life, which is the light.
That is who I mean.
In the first chapter of the fourth gospel,
Have you read him?
there was a man sent from God to bear witness of that light. John the Baptist prophesied the coming of the Immaculate Jesus. And John
You should check some of it out. Some of it's a little bit wacky,
Messiah, who would baptize with the Holy
but when you're dealing with the esoteric, a lot of times things can get a little bit wacky. But yeah, he's got some interesting stuff to say. And this guy was alive in Russia in the 20s.
So
Like, this is,
completed this video
A different kind of voice, I think.
spiritual idea of God's love.
Before Tolstoy, even.
The moon is under
I
the
think. I could be
This
wrong.
idea reveals
Gurdjieff might be after
as
Tolstoy.
secondary and tributary to spirit.
I don't know shit, but it's good to learn,
Light.
and I do enjoy that. So it's actually kind of good. Nice. Hell yeah, Alex.
The idea is crowned with
Yeah.
stars.
Some of the stuff he's been saying has really been
12 tribes of Israel with all mortals
bracing
separated by
for me, very like
divine origin
reinforcing.
idea will through much tribulation yield to the activity
And good to see you, Alex.
principle of man in the harmony of science.
With that, I think we're gonna
These are
be
the stars in the crown
getting out of here. I hope y'all had a good
They are
time.
the lamps in the
Got a little chaotic.
of the age.
I'll be seeing some of y'all in real life.
Workings of the
I'll be seeing the rest of y'all next week
the sick
with the ZnZerna Music Hour returns.
by manifesting the light which shines under the
And until then, take
and
care.
the night of materialism wanes. Revelation 12, 2. And she, being with child,
All right. Good night.